might as well do a little trial on this Harbor Freight 10-ton jaw puller press. If y'all waiting for the look how magnificent the box is and how wonderful, and no, go watch somebody else. We ain't doing all that crap. All right, so what we have here, the collar that is going to screw onto this, okay, can be configured with the 2 pieces that I'm holding on to, or these 3. So 2 jaw or a 3 jaw, and you skip this one. So because I have a little piece underneath the bottom of the winch where the factory dog release was, I'm gonna try it in a 2 jaw, because I don't think that I can do 3 without cutting something. So we're gonna slide these on. These really don't have to be much tighter than hand tight. You can snug them if you're fighting and having a little trouble getting the getting everything on. So basically, you're gonna take 2 of these. You're gonna run your bolt through one with the washer on it, run it through the hole, stick the other one on, and nut and washer from the other side. Once you have that on there, then, like I said, we're gonna do 2 jaws. So we're gonna have these 2 configured in this kind of a fashion. All right, so I'm gonna set it up for long reach, because I'm kind of concerned about the reach I'm gonna have. So we're gonna set this one up for long, but the way this screws on to here, you got a lot of adjustment there. But again, this is my first time with this, so we may get it wrong and we may have to redo. And these jaws can be rigged this way for pulling inside, or that way for pulling outside. Just a little side note. All right, get up in there. And you just got to take your time with these pullers. Be patient, because it takes a lot of time and effort to get it all situated. And the bigger the puller, the more effort it's going to take to get it all snugged in, and it can require some application of colorful language. I was trying to see if this would come off, because I don't want to drill and don't have a center drilled on that shaft. I have one marked out, and we may have to end up using it. I don't know. This kind of out of the way here. See if I can maybe let me get a little hammer. All right, I do not know if this is going to work, but we're going to give it a quick little knock with the dead blow. And I don't want to be against that valve. You got the little shut-off valve right here. I don't want to be hitting against that if I don't have to. Let me see. Turn this way. Turn this whole thing over. This little shut-off valve for the bleed down is plastic, and I don't want to be whacking on that. So I'm gonna hold the body of the winch, and there we go. So this point is removable, so you can go flat up against it, which we're gonna try first. see if that works, and if that doesn't work, we'll move on. All right, so the way this is, basically you're gonna take these two jaws and hook them on what you want, and then you can screw this in and out to get it centered. Once you get it centered, you'll have this closed and jack it just like a bottle jack. So let me move the camera and we'll get this set up and see if we can't get it pulling. Okay, so I got this screwed through here a little bit, kind of guesstimating what we need, and I have the wings kind of hand tight where they don't flop around too easily. All right, let's see. Well, we got to screw some more. Y'all are learning with me. It's my first time fooling with this big thing. It is a little awkward and a little heavy, but hopefully the heavy will pay for itself here in a little bit. All right, let's see. Let me try a little something else. Alright, what I'm going to try here is to hang that. And then I'm going to see if I can get a bungee around these two jaws. To hold them in place while I try and get all of this angled and lined up right. And why are we this far off on one side and not on the other? Alright, that's looking good. This side is off. I might need that live center. I don't know. What has got me crooked here? Okay, this needs to go up a little bit. Well, why is this? All right, let me look into this. I'll show y'all what I got going on, see if I can figure out what's going on with it. And you can see I've got a little angle situation here. So I got to figure out why that is. So let me get back into this and I'll bring y'all back. For real, none of y'all told me this, huh? Y'all didn't catch it? The reason this is cockeyed is because we're in the bottom hole here. And we're in the top hole here. So far the jack is doing good. we definitely have a short between the ground and the jack. I think it's technically called the operator. So let me reconfigure the bolts and we'll get back on it. All right, so now we're on the upper holes on both of them. I did that because I just like the angle that the upper holes were giving me better than the other one. So I'd love to blame it on the tool, but operator error. Okay, so we're gonna put these like that. We're gonna screw this down in. I think we're gonna have to screw this all the way in. This big boy, there's a bit of awkwardness to fooling with it, but I'm hoping once it's set up, we'll have the awkwardness will take care of itself. Okay, so let's get these hooked. Have to screw it in all the way. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna let it sit, and for shits and giggles, we're gonna put the bungee back on it. Put that on there. Now, you don't have to worry about this head. Luckily, it swivels any direction. So I'm gonna put this in the center of the shaft. All right. And we're gonna make sure that everything's grabbing right. Our valve is tight. Okay. So let's put a little bind on it and kind of see if everything stays like it's supposed to. All right, I'm checking the jaws to make sure they got a good bite. All right, and one thing I want to do is, I want to make sure I got a little mark line on one of the dogs on the winch with a marker pencil, so I wanted to put that back, and I needed to pinch my finger. That's, you know, I had got to start the day off right. Okay, we're gonna walk this out a little bit and see. I'm not sure if how much of it is the old weld holding it on, or if it's the center of the collar that slides on the shaft is rusted. Let me get this grease off my hands before I get full of it and get it everywhere. Alright, had to change from the regular glasses to the eye protection glasses. Uh-oh, that's a good sound. So I'm probably gonna put a little bind on this, and then possibly I'm gonna use a little, well, we got this thing sprayed full of penetrating oil, but we can use some hammer time See if I can get a hammer in there. Alright. Pull this drum forward so I can see my little mark. And it looks like we might have made a smidgen of headway on our little mark. So let's go ahead and put a little more bind on it. Yeah, it looks like we might be making some headway. So we're gonna spray some love juice, get this all soaking in the front and the back. All right, I'm gonna try catching another little bite. It looks like she's sneaking in. Just gonna take my time and we're gonna try and walk her out. Hopefully, if there's a burr from the weld, hopefully we'll rub that off. But as tight as this thing's been, it almost has to be, in my opinion anyway, it almost has to be half-ass rusted on the thread. I mean on the shaft. Yeah, she's definitely moving. All right, we're gonna let that sit for a little while. Let that juice get in there. I'm gonna come back to that in a minute. So we'll be back and forth to this. I don't want to put a whole bunch of bind on it at one time. I'm gonna do a little tapping with the hammer and then a little more jacking, and we're just gonna let that sit and keep coming back to it and jump on some other stuff. All right, well, before I could get on to something else, I came and tapped on this with the hammer and she gave a little jump, so we're gonna give her another little pull and see. Another thing I was warned about is that when these come loose, they usually jump pretty good. So be expecting that, so you don't need clean underwear. There it is. I don't know if y'all can see that, but a little bump and a jump. So we're gonna keep going, because if we can't make this thing work right, we're gonna have to pull this all the way off at some point. To get this thing to do what it's supposed to do. So she looks like she's coming. Handle don't stay in. All right, let's see. Let me get this bungee off of here. That way I can go all the way. So I'm gonna show y'all what I got going. Some of you guys may not understand the winch truck stuff. Okay, so y'all can see this dog has a tooth here, a tooth up there, and a tooth down here, and they engage these dogs in the winch. So normally there's an attachment here that always breaks off, and these two rods are for the controls for the free spool and a brake band, which is always missing on the older winches. So the shaft right here, I want to put my finger in there in case it pops, because we still got a little bind on it. But we're walking this shaft out so you can see the difference between here and here is a good halfway, and we're almost, let me get the light in there, you can see a little gap. So this thing will freewheel now. So we're going to bring it all the way out, and then we're going to work it back, and then if we have to, we'll unbolt all of this and get this up, pull this dog clean off, and then we can polish that shaft depending on what we got. But we're going to try and just work it and lube it right now. So that's what's happening, is this is jumping in sections, and I'm going to pull it all the way to the end here and then push it back on. So far, the old Harbor Jack freight, not Harbor Freight Jack, not Harbor Jack Freight, has paid for itself. When you consider that I've been fooling with beating and banging and grinding on this thing, which the grinding had to be done anyway. Let me put another little bind on this. So she gets good and tight, and I'm not getting hog crazy on her, but you get a good bind on her and come hammer on this dog, and she pops and jumps about 1/8 of an inch. And we can put another little bind on her. I'm gonna do one more, and then we're gonna stop in case I gotta get it off of there. All right. Well, let's see if I can take a look at it. What I want to be able to do is kind of see if I can see the back of the shaft to see if we got rust issues or if we just dealing with that weld. Let me see. I don't think I'm gonna be able to get y'all in there. I'll be lucky if I get me in there. It does look kind of grungy, but looks more like grease than anything else. Maybe some rust, but we've been shooting penetrating all over, so it kind of looks like a damn mud right now. I want to see, well, we're gonna go all the way out with it. Go big or go home. Right now though, if you want to look at the drum, I'll show you what I mean. So before, this would just rock 1/8 of a turn either way and hit the dogs. So I'm gonna go on the back and pull some of this slack cable out, and you can see the drum move. We're going to take this off for right now because I'm concerned that if I come all the way up against the bushing, I may need to get something in there to tap it back. So we're going to pull this down for right now, spray a little lube on everything, let it sit, and then we're going to try walking it back and forth. And we may have to hammer it in and hammer it back out. I don't know what all we're going to run into. So let's just ease this down like that. And this, by the way, this is spring loaded, so if you crank the little valve, it'll ease its way off. All right, let me put this out the way. Now we can spin the drum. We can turn the drum by hand this way, and y'all be able to see the dog moving right here, which is turning the shaft, and the drum just riding along right now because there's no bind on the cable. But before, we didn't have near this much free ability to turn everything. So what I'm doing is I'm turning it 180 degrees so I can get some more spray on there, let it soak in from the underside. There we go. We're gonna bend our straw around a little bit, and that'll help us get it. I want to get it up against the back side of the dog and not just spray everywhere. Although at this stage of the game, everywhere probably help too. All right, I'm gonna let that that penetrating oil soak in, and we're gonna revisit that in a little while. But definitely a win for the Harbor Freight 10-ton 3-jaw puller, because I've been pulling on that with a T-bar puller and heating it to 500 degrees and all that, and this did it with no heat. So definitely a win on the Harbor Freight puller, and I'm not getting paid for it. It's just giving you a review of something that I bought my own money to give it a shot. But it saved me a lot of time. We did that in a few minutes, and I've already got 2 days of playing with this, so you do the math and figure out where you're saving your time. All right, so let this soak a little bit. Try moving it with a hammer. Even put the porta power on it, and I don't have the cylinder. I got the wedge, which is, I don't think, near strong. But this is not budging back, so I don't think it's gonna break it, rub itself free. So what I'm thinking we may have to do is undo this cap, and I'll have to see if that bushing is pressed on or what. And we may end up having to undo this cap and undoing the cap over this bearing here. All of this, the bolts around the ring gear cover, and then come along from the top of the roll cage, get this whole shaft lifted up out of the gearbox and off of the A-frame, and then possibly get our puller back on here and pull this rascal out all the way. And then once we get it, all the way off the shaft, then we can polish the shaft and buff the inside of this out maybe. I'm not sure. We're gonna think about it a little more, but that looks like what we may end up having to do, which will be good. We need to kind of look at the ring gear situation in the for the bronze ring gear, see if it's worn. We may end up needing some seals and whatnot. So all right, well, that's a hold on the winch for right now. It's a win and a loss. We got it moving this way, but we ain't moving back the other way. So we got to figure that out. All right, we're back on the winch this morning. So in order to get this dog, which is going to have some weld in the underneath of it, and probably some weld on the shaft right here, in order to get that buffed out where this dog will slide easy, we're going to go ahead and pull this cap. And I already loosened all the Allen head set screws on this collar, and we're going to have to pull that cap and this whole ring gear cover off in order to lift the spool up and clear this A-frame, and then we'll be able to pull that off. So be able to keep a good handle on all this and not fight anything, we're going to go ahead and take this cable off. It's just held in by a U-bolt, so we're backing the U-bolts off. Cable's got a little rust on it, but it doesn't look to be too bad. So before I make a decision on it, probably going to take it and coil it up in a drum, put some diesel and maybe some oil in it, and lube it back up. And if not, we got other cable we can put on there. All right, let's get into it. New plan. That could work. Well, it ain't sexy, but it'll do. And it should give us enough height right here to get out of this cradle. This is only going to take an inch or two. Well, actually, you know, more like maybe 4 because of the dog having to clear. But the big ring gear here has got to come out. And basically what we want to do is just lift this drum straight up, and then we can suspend it or hang it from a chain or whatever up in here. That way it's right above where it's got to go. We can work on this side, get what we got to get done, and then drop it right back down in the cradle with as little disturbance as we can. And we'll inspect the worm and ring gear and drain the oil and all that stuff too. There we go. So on the top of the bushing right here sits in these pins. We got one pin missing, but that sits there and that keeps the bushing from turning and lets the shaft turn inside the bushing. So you can see when I turn the sprocket, the shaft is turning, but the bushing isn't. Alright, that's supposed to slide off. And we'll see how supposed to works in a minute. Let's get the other cap off. Alright, same thing on this side. I'm just looking for either a good spot to try and get in, or a little lip where the top overlaps. Kind of like right here. I don't know if y'all can see that, but there's a good little overlap. Keeps me away from the sealing surface. Alright, let's see. Alright. Same thing there. We're not going to fool with anything on this side, so. Alright, so this is the bronze gear. And you can see right here that there's a flat spot, which is perfect. There's not a lot of wear on here. When these things start to get worn out, these will get really, really sharp, and that's about when stuff's going to start rolling over and stripping. But this is worn really well, and we'll look at the worm gear when this comes out. But we're going to lift that up. This is all going to stay assembled. We're just going to lift it up, do our work on the other side. We'll inspect in here, and if everything's cool, we're just going to come right back on down with it. All right. Let's see if we can mess something up. All right, this is good that it's coming up bronze gear first, and I'm just gonna keep the other side kind of balanced, and that'll we'll see how off balance we are. Alright, there's our bushing, there's the holes, and it just pins to this collar. It doesn't pin to the shaft. The shaft is smooth. Alright, we're going to pull these Allens all the way out, just so we don't have any issues with them. I think they're out enough to be off the shaft, but it'll let us get some spray in there and get some penetrating on rather. Alright, put a little spray, and then for what it's worth. Alright, well, I converted the puller from a 2-jaw to a 3-jaw, so it ought to be a lot more fun to get it set up. Let's see how that goes. It's just fun. Well, miracles never cease. All right. I'm gonna get a piece of rope so this puller doesn't fall. What we're going to do, we're going to tie this off. All right, let me get an eyeball for where we're at. All right, got a good 1/4 inch to go before we get to the collar. Tighten or bleed, and let's see what we can do here. We got some eye protection. Anytime you're dealing with stuff like these pullers or a press, watch yourself, because there's a lot of potential energy stored up. Alright, what I'm trying to do is get this thing chained forward. Give me something to push against when I'm pumping that jack. Let's see.
Now I can push. I ever meet the guy that welded this thing up, I'm shooting him on sight. Shooting him on sight. There's absolutely no damn reason to weld a dog on a Tulsa Winch like this. I've had a few of them. This is the second one that was welded, and it's way more of a pain in the ass than the first one was. Alright, the language is probably going to start getting a little colorful. We'll put y'all on time lapse.
we got this thing off the truck, sitting on the workbench, and this slip collar, which holds the 2 square stock keys, you can see one of them in the back there. This doesn't want to slide off, and it's kicking our ass. So I'm really worried I don't want to get too aggressive and break the cast iron. So what we may end up having to do is get on this end and pull all this mechanism loose, get the bronze gear off, get the drum off, and we may have to do some fabric cobbling to the shop press, the 20-ton press, to rig it up to press this out. That's the only way I know. I think once we get this another maybe 2 inches or more further, then we should be off the weld and off any of the gummed up square stock, and it should come off, and then we can buff it down and put it all back together. So we're getting a little long with the video right now, and you can hear Mr. Pookie telling us he's had enough for the day. So if Pook's had enough, I guess we're gonna wrap it up. So we're gonna stop this disassembly video right now, and we'll pick it up tomorrow and see if we can't figure out what our next step is going to be, because I'm kind of running out of options here. But that's too long for today. So guys, hell, if anybody's worked on these Tulsa winches and seen any way to go that would be easier than the way I'm going, hit me up in the comments, man. I'm happy to take some instruction. Other than that, we're just gonna have to dive in it and just keep plugging away till something happens. And if something don't happen, might have to buy some parts. All right guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see y'all on the next one.